In the annals of true crime, certain events unfold that not only shake our world, but also reveal the depths of human nature, both its capacity for darkness and its unwavering resilience. Welcome to Sauce Story, where we delve into the chilling events of true crime stories that have left an indelible mark on society. In today's video, we'll take a look at 3 gripping and haunting tales, each one a harrowing chapter that forever changed the lives of those involved. As we weave together dramatized perspectives and factual accounts, we aim to honor the memories of victims, acknowledge the courage of those who faced the tragedies head-on, and shed light on the complex layers of human emotion. So buckle up and get ready for 3 true crime stories that transcend ordinary horror. As the sun kissed the tranquil landscape of Barcelona, I boarded Germanwings Flight 9525, a short-haul flight bound for Dusseldorf, Germany. The anticipation of returning home after a memorable vacation filled the cabin with a mixture of excitement and contentment. Little did any of us know that this journey would be far from ordinary. Settling into my seat near the window, I gazed out at the azure skies, savoring the view of the Spanish coast slowly fading into the distance. The usual hum of passengers finding their seats and stowing their belongings filled the air, creating a reassuring sense of normalcy. Around me, conversations were hushed, a blend of various languages sharing the unspoken joy of heading back to loved ones or resuming familiar routines. The flight attendants performed their safety routines with practiced ease, their warm smiles promising a smooth and uneventful journey ahead. I watched as the cabin crew demonstrated the proper use of seatbelts and life vests, their professionalism easing any lingering concerns I might have had. We taxied to the runway, the engine's steady growl signaling our imminent departure. As the plane accelerated down the runway, I felt the familiar sensation of weightlessness as it lifted off the ground. The sprawling city of Barcelona shrank beneath us, its beauty unfolding from above like a canvas painted by the heavens. Settling into the rhythm of flight, I marveled at the panoramic views and the gentle bobbing of the wings against the cerulean sky. Amid the tranquil atmosphere, a sense of camaraderie emerged among the passengers. Silent nods and exchanged smiles seemed to say, "We're in this together." I exchanged a knowing glance with the person seated beside me, a reminder that we were all connected on this shared journey. However, as the flight continued, an eerie quiet began to descend over the cabin. An unspoken unease seemed to settle in, an invisible cloud casting a shadow over the previous camaraderie. The flight attendants moved through the aisles with heightened sensitivity, their gentle gestures a reflection of the concern etched onto their faces. Minutes turned into hours, and still we maintained our altitude, but something was amiss. Whispers began to circulate, fragments of conversation drifting through the air, as we collectively sensed that our journey had taken an unexpected turn. The usually steady drone of the engines seemed to have changed, the rhythm faltering like a heartbeat in distress. Then, the captain's voice broke the silence, addressing us with a tone that wavered between reassurance and urgency. An emergency situation had arisen, he explained, one that required our patience and cooperation. The unspoken words hung heavy in the air. Something was wrong, something beyond the realm of our understanding. In the minutes that followed, the realization began to crystallize. The plane was descending, not as part of the original flight plan, but with a deliberate purpose. Panic spread like wildfire, a volatile mixture of confusion, fear, and disbelief. The captain's voice returned, pleading for calm as he explained that the situation was being handled. But as the terrain rushed up to meet us, the truth became inescapable. We were plummeting towards the earth, not in a controlled descent, but in a terrifying freefall. The screams that echoed through the cabin mingled with the turbulence, a symphony of horror and disbelief. I clutched my armrest, my fingers gripping with a desperation I had never known. The last moments were a blur of chaos and terror. The ground rose to meet us with a violent collision, the impact shattering our world and shrouding everything in darkness. In the aftermath, as investigators pieced together the fragments of our tragic flight, the truth emerged. The co-pilot, driven by a hidden darkness, had deliberately taken control of the plane. Our final moments were not of a shared journey or a safe return home, but of a descent into an abyss of unimaginable horror. Germanwings Flight 9525 was a scheduled passenger flight from Barcelona, Spain to Dusseldorf, Germany, operated by an Airbus A320 aircraft. On March 24, 2015, tragedy struck as the flight crashed in the French Alps, resulting in the loss of all 150 people on board. Investigations revealed that the crash was a deliberate act carried out by the co-pilot, Andreas Lubitz. While the captain left the cockpit, Lubitz took control of the plane and initiated a controlled descent. He locked the cockpit door, preventing the captain from re-entering. The cockpit voice recorder revealed that Lubitz's breathing remained steady, suggesting that he was conscious and breathing normally during the descent. The captain's frantic attempts to regain entry to the cockpit were also recorded, but Lubitz did not respond. The plane ultimately crashed into the mountains at a high speed, leading to its disintegration upon impact. It was later disclosed that Lubitz had a history of mental health issues and had been declared unfit to fly by a doctor. He had kept this information from his employer and continued to fly. Investigators found torn-up sick notes and evidence of online searches related to cockpit door security measures in Lubitz's apartment, indicating premeditation. The story of Germanwings Flight 9525 is a testament to the fragility of lives and the depth of human complexities. A story of passengers on a journey they had not chosen, thrown into a narrative they couldn't comprehend. As they left behind shattered lives and grieving families, their shared journey had become a heart-wrenching reminder that even in the most ordinary of circumstances, the unexpected can shatter our world in an instant. The morning sun hung low over the quiet town of Granby, casting long shadows across the streets. Jim, a local mechanic with a sturdy build and calloused hands, stood outside of his garage, wiping his hands on a grease-stained rag. He had heard the rumblings in the town for weeks, whispers of a brewing storm that was about to break loose, but he never expected that storm to come in the form of a roaring bulldozer. The first tremors began deep beneath the earth, like the growl of a beast waking from slumber. Jim looked up, squinting against the glare, and his heart leaped into his throat. He saw it, an enormous machine, a bulldozer clad in an iron hide, tearing down the street like a mechanical monster. Panic surged through him as he recognized the man-made monstrosity, Marvin Heemeyer's Killdozer. Jim stumbled back, the rag falling from his hands. He had heard about Heemeyer's disputes with the town, but he never imagined it would escalate to this level of madness. The Killdozer's treads churned the asphalt, leaving a trail of destruction in its wake. Buildings crumbled like fragile sandcastles before its relentless advance. Jim's chest tightened as he watched his town, his home, being torn apart by a machine that seemed unstoppable. Sirens wailed in the distance, a cacophony of panic and chaos. Law enforcement vehicles raced towards the mechanical titan, lights flashing in a desperate attempt to halt its rampage. But as the first shots rang out, the Killdozer's armor proved impenetrable. Bullets ricocheted off its steel plating like sparks off an anvil, and Jim felt a sickening knot form in his stomach. It was a nightmare brought to life, a vision of destruction that defied belief. The radio crackled to life, broadcasting urgent updates and pleas for civilians to evacuate the area. But Jim couldn't tear his gaze away from the unfolding tragedy. He saw the town's history, its memories being crushed under the treads of vengeance. The newspaper, the town hall, even the local library, all reduced to rubble. The Killdozer's roars drowned out the cries of the bewildered townspeople, leaving only a trail of chaos in its wake. Hours passed like a fever dream, the rampage showing no signs of abating. Jim's mind raced, his heart torn between disbelief and anger. As the sun began to dip below the horizon, the Killdozer's thunderous engine roared louder, its movement slowing as it finally became lodged in the wreckage of a building. The once mighty machine had met its match, but the aftermath was haunting. As he stared at the crushed remains of his town, he couldn't help but wonder if there had been another way, a way to prevent this tragic descent into chaos. On June 4, 2004, Marvin Heemeyer, a disgruntled resident of Granby, Colorado, carried out a rampage using a modified bulldozer known as the Killdozer. Heemeyer had been in a long-standing dispute with local authorities over zoning issues related to his muffler repair shop and other perceived injustices. Heemeyer spent over 1.5 years secretly modifying a Komatsu D355A bulldozer, reinforcing it with layers of armor and steel plates. In places, the armor was over 1 foot thick, consisting of 5,000 psi concrete sandwiched between sheets of half-inch thick steel. This armor made the machine impervious to small arms fire and resistant to explosives. During the events that transpired, 3 external explosions and more than 200 rounds of ammunition fired at the bulldozer by local authorities had no effect on it. For visibility, the bulldozer was fitted with several video cameras linked to 2 monitors mounted on the vehicle's dashboard. The cameras were protected on the outside by 3-inch shields of clear bulletproof Lexan. Compressed air nozzles were fitted to blow dust away from the video cameras. Heemeyer also added 3 gun ports fitted for 50 caliber, 308 caliber, and 22 caliber rifles that he brought with him. At the time of the demolition, it also contained 3 handguns and enough food and water to last a week. It was clear that Heemeyer had no intention of leaving the cabin once he entered it. Once he tipped that lid shut, he knew he wasn't getting out, Grand County Commissioner Dwayne Daly said. Heemeyer's rampage lasted 2 hours and 7 minutes, damaging 13 buildings, including the town hall, a concrete batch plant, the local newspaper office, a general store, a hardware store, the home of a former town mayor, and other businesses that he believed were responsible for his grievances. During his rampage, Heemeyer fired 15 bullets from his rifles at power transformers and propane tanks. Had these tanks ruptured and exploded, anyone within 1/2 mile of the explosion could have been endangered, the sheriff's department said. 12 police officers and residents of a senior citizens complex were within such a range. Later, Heemeyer fired on 2 state patrol officers before they fired at him. The sheriff's department also noted that 11 of the 13 buildings Heemeyer bulldozed were occupied until moments before their destruction. Officers did everything they could think of to try to end the attack. One officer dropped a flashbang grenade down the bulldozer's exhaust pipe with no apparent effect. Local and state patrol, including a SWAT team, walked behind and beside the bulldozer, occasionally firing, but the armored bulldozer was impervious to their shots. Attempts to disable the bulldozer's cameras with gunfire failed as the bullets were unable to penetrate the bulletproof plastic. At this point, local authorities and the Colorado State Patrol feared they were running out of options. Governor Bill Owens allegedly considered authorizing the National Guard to use either an Apache attack helicopter equipped with a Hellfire missile or a 2-man fire team equipped with a Javelin anti-tank missile to destroy the bulldozer. As late as 2011, Governor Owens' staff vehemently denied considering such a course of action. Members of the state patrol, however, claim that to the contrary, the governor did consider authorizing an attack, but ultimately decided against it due to the potential collateral damage. In the end, it was deemed unnecessary as the rampage finally came to an end when the bulldozer became trapped in the basement of the hardware store it was attempting to demolish. About a minute after the vehicle failed, at 4:30 p.m. that day, one of the SWAT team members who had swarmed around the machine reported hearing a single gunshot from inside the cab. Inside the immobilized bulldozer, Heemeyer decided to put an end to things once and for all. Thankfully, despite the great damage to property, no one besides Heemeyer was killed in the event. However, the property damage was estimated at $7 million to local businesses and government buildings. The legacy of the Killdozer incident would forever mark Granby's history, a cautionary tale of grievances gone unchecked, and the devastating consequences of such unchecked rage. The citizens of Granby would carry the memory of that day with them, a reminder that even in the quietest of towns, darkness could take root and unleash unfathomable destruction. Maria sat in her seat, gripping the armrest tightly as the plane roared down the runway. She had been excited to visit her family for the holidays, but that excitement was quickly replaced by unease as 4 men, dressed as Algerian police, entered the cabin. It was a surreal sight, uniforms with the Air Algerie logos, but something was off. She noticed the dynamite one of them exposed, an unsettling detail. The atmosphere turned tense when the men demanded passports and one entered the cockpit. Maria's heart raced as fear spread through the passengers like wildfire. She felt a shiver down her spine as the men revealed their true intentions. Mujahideen seeking to establish an Islamic state. The cabin became a prison and the plane a battleground between terror and hope. Fear enveloped the cabin as Maria and the other passengers realized they were being hijacked. The hijackers demanded the pilots continue the flight to Paris, threatening violence if their orders were not obeyed. Maria exchanged fearful glances with her seatmates, her mind racing with thoughts of her family and the life she might never see again. As the hijackers tightened their grip, Maria observed the forced change in her fellow passengers. Women donned head coverings, conversation grew hushed, and fear hung thick in the air. The hijackers spoke of their mission, their devotion to a cause she could scarcely comprehend. With every passing minute, her hope dwindled. Days turned into a tense and harrowing ordeal. As the terrorists released some passengers, Maria clung to the fading hope of survival. She felt the weight of uncertainty heavy upon her, wondering if each moment might be her last. Her prayers, whispered in the darkened cabin, mingled with those of her fellow hostages. Meanwhile, Captain Laurent stared at the screens in the command center, his heart pounding in his chest. He was part of the elite GIGN team, tasked with resolving the hijacking crisis. The tension in the room was palpable, the weight of lives hanging in the balance. The images of the hijacked plane, its passengers held hostage, filled him with a determination to put an end to this nightmare. As the negotiations dragged on, the GIGN team meticulously planned every detail of the rescue operation. They studied the aircraft's layout, analyzed the terrorists' behavior, and honed their strategies. The lives of the hostages depended on their precision and teamwork. The day of the operation arrived, and the GIGN operatives prepared to breach the plane. The plane's silhouette against the night sky was a stark reminder of the task ahead. Captain Laurent's heart raced as he stepped onto the tarmac, his mind focused solely on the mission. The aircraft's fuselage loomed before them, a fortress holding innocent lives captive. Captain Laurent and his team took their positions, tension filling the air. Their steps were careful, purposeful, as they moved closer to the plane. The night was fraught with uncertainty, and the weight of the hostages' lives rested on their shoulders. With a burst of adrenaline, the GIGN team stormed the plane, the sound of gunfire ringing in their ears. In the confined space, chaos erupted as bullets flew, and the sharp crack of explosives echoed through the cabin. Captain Laurent's training kicked in, his movements precise as he engaged with the hijackers, his thoughts centered on the hostages' safety. Amid the chaos, Captain Laurent spotted a passenger, fear etched on her face, huddled in a corner. He shouted for her to stay down as he and his fellow operatives neutralized the threat. The firefight was fierce, but the GIGN's determination never wavered. As the last hijacker fell, a wave of relief washed over the cabin. The plane, once a fortress of fear, now held the promise of freedom. Through the smoke and the lingering scent of gunfire, Captain Laurent knew that their mission was a success. The passengers were safe. In the aftermath, as dawn broke over the tarmac, Captain Laurent looked at the plane. Its windows held stories of terror, courage, and resilience. He felt a mix of emotions: relief, pride, and sorrow for the lives lost. The cabin, once a battleground, now stood as a testament to the bravery of those who had faced the darkness head-on. In the end, the GIGN's actions had rewritten the narrative, turning fear into hope and chaos into triumph. The story of Flight 8969 would forever be etched in their memories, a tale of humanity's capacity for resilience and the unwavering commitment to protect those in need. As we reflect on the chilling events that unfolded, let us remember that true crime stories are not just tales of tragedy. They are mirrors that reflect our vulnerabilities, our resilience, and the thin line between ordinary life and unthinkable horrors. Through these stories, we are reminded of the heroes who emerged, the courage that defied fear, and the compassion that illuminated the darkest of moments. The lives lost and the scars left behind serve as a somber testament to the impact of our actions and the unforeseen turns that life can take. In the face of unimaginable adversity, we are reminded that the human spirit can rise above even the bleakest of circumstances. Thank you for joining me on this journey through the shadows of true crime. If you enjoyed today's video, please drop a like and comment below. Don't forget to subscribe for more and hit the bell icon to be notified when new videos go live. Until next time, stay safe out there, and I'll see you on the next one.